Wow, that's great. Some great attentiveness. So I'd like to welcome everyone once again tonight to our annual membership meeting. Super great turnout tonight. It's great to have our vendors available. We appreciate all the vendors who came out and people with their displays. That was very helpful, so let's give them a round of applause. I'd like to also welcome a couple of our elected officials who have shown support for us. We have Brian Miller from the New York State Assembly. Where's Brian? There he is in the back. Brian has always been a great friend to the Oneida Lake Association, so we appreciate having him in our corner. And we also have Tim Burtis here tonight. Tim is, I saw over here somewhere. There he is. Tim is the chairperson of the Onondaga County Legislature. So thank you for coming out, and thank you both for your continued support. We have a great lineup of speakers tonight, but before we get into that, as we always do, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And remain standing for one more minute, just for a moment of reflection, to thank all our first responders and our law enforcement officers for keeping us safe and secure. So we appreciate the work that they do. Thank you. All right, we're going to take a few minutes to go through the business meeting as required by our charter. We're going to start with our treasurer, Bob Walczyk, who is going to give us a finance report. Bob, come up, please.
Take longer to walk up here than to give you the report. In the checking account, $3,018.74. The savings is $33,736.85. So on hand, we have a total of $36,755.59.
Thanks, Bob. It's great to have our finances in such good hands. While we're on the topic of finances, I also wanted to mention that there was a longtime angler and resident of the United Lake area, Eugene Kadlubowski. His daughter has graciously been a great contributor to our OLA scholarship program. So through her efforts and her financial support, we've given scholarships for the last 3 years to some truly, truly terrific kids that deserve this award. So we appreciate the Kadlubowski family for their support. Next up, Bruce Shantz will tell us a little bit about our membership.
So we finished last year at just shy of 2,200 members. That's about on par with where we've been the last several years. This year we did a nearshore mailing to try to recruit some more members, and that's been a decent response so far. As always, the extra cards, fill them out, give them to your neighbors, give them to your family, your friends. If you need more cards, I've got them out there too. We really appreciate you guys being members and trying to help out. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next up, Rip Colasante will guide us through the election process.
Hello all. This is your chance to participate in the democratic process. The nominating committee of the OLA board has presented a slate of directors to the term of a three-year term ending in 2028. That slate is Patty Ciro Rehill, Warren Darby, John Harmon, Mike Scanlon, Kurt Snyder, Matt Snyder, and Lance Bella. And per our bylaws, these people have to are voted in by the membership. And I would like to ask for a show of hands for the people who would support that slate, or do support that slate. Good. It's passed. I'm not going to count the people who didn't vote. We're all good.
Thanks, Rick. Speaking of directors, these are men and women who give tirelessly of their time to keep Oneida Lake moving forward and moving in the right direction. So at this time, I'd like to have all of the directors please stand and be recognized. Thanks for your great work. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce my great friend and a terrific leader, President Matt Snyder.
John, thank you. Fellow directors, thank you. I'd like to particularly single out Brian Stone. Brian, come in here. Poke your head in for a second. Head night shift custodian here at Millard Hawk. He and his team do an awesome job of making this space ready and hospitable for us. So big round of applause. Thanks to you and your guys. I will keep this brief, but we have a lot to go over. First things first, I'd like to ask if you're able, anyone here who's age 80 or older, if you would please stand for a moment. Thank you. Let's say thanks to the old timers who taught us how to enjoy this lake and take care of it. The reason I picked the big 80 is because this is the 80th annual membership meeting of our Oneida Lake Association. So I thought it would be great to see some of the people who've been around as long as OLA has been around, or in a few cases, maybe even a little bit longer. I'd like to thank John, appreciate the warm welcome, and also this is one of my last official acts as president. I'll be rotating out of the presidency shortly. And I have to single out John. He was the immediate past president before I took my term and did an awesome job keeping me accountable and on track and helping this past year not be a total disaster. So John, I appreciate you very much. Probably the most profound thanks that I want to give tonight are to the people who have reached out and sent their well wishes to our directors, Greg Keener and Tony Buffa. As you know, both gentlemen have been beset by some health challenges. Both gentlemen are fighters. They have great family and support systems around them. And, you know, I talked to one of them the other day, and he said it was like having an army of prayer on his side. And Greg's here tonight. Tony, unfortunately, can't be with us. Every day's different, but he's doing well. Treatments are going according to plan for him. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, everybody that said a prayer for those gentlemen. It means the world to them, and it means the world to this association. Thank you. All right, we're going to burn through a couple of key things that we've worked on in the past year and that we're getting ready to work on in the coming year. The first of those is probably the most boring. It's the how the sausage is made portion of the program, and that's Board of Directors Leadership Development. As you know, this is a 100% volunteer board. Nobody's paid. You know, the glory that comes with it is amazing, but that's not why we do it. You know, but for an organization that's been around now for 80 plus years, to still be as vibrant and impactful and able to get things done as your Oneida Lake Association, that's a testament to the strength that resides in you, our members, and also a testament to the institutional history and continuity that exists within our board, and having people step up to take on new roles and bring new ideas to the table. So it so happens that while this is my last outing as OLA president, I'm pretty excited about what's coming next. So Lance Vella, who I know many of you know very well, is our president-elect. So he'll be taking the helm starting in May of this year. And you know, it's an all-star board. Like, I'm humbled routinely by the caliber of people that sit on this board and that care so passionately about Oneida Lake. And that all-star team has really spent the last year rallying behind Lance to help him be ready and have a good run as president. I want to challenge you, our members, to help Lance as well. And it's really pretty simple. It's stay tight with the United Lake Association, pay attention to the information that we send out to you. If there's something in there that says contact a legislator or reach out to DEC, take the time to do that. It's really what gives us the heft to be able to have Oneida Lake's voice be heard when decisions are being made at the state and national level. Further, if you're a member of one of the other relevant sportsmen's associations around the lake, tonight I see people here from the South Shore Association. I see people here from Lake Forest. I think I saw some Ilosta folks limp by, and the Fish Creek Atlantic, some of those kind of key traditional organizations. They, like OLA, are kind of the backbone that holds this community together. And as we become a less civic-minded world, those are really the lodge poles in our community that hold things together for Oneida Lake. So stay involved there too. Next topic, the Money in the Bank program. This was an initiative that was announced. I think, John, we talked about this last year for the first time, and this year we're putting it into action. The Money in the Bank program is the Oneida Lake Association board recognizing that erosion and sedimentation are huge issues affecting our lake. Those issues start uphill from the lake. There's a lot of great work being done by some of the bodies that are represented here tonight in the part of the soil and water conservation districts to do erosion control and stream bank stabilization projects. And in 2025, for the first time, the Oneida Lake Association is diverting a portion of the money that you folks give us for your annual membership dues and making an investment in a stream bank stabilization project in Madison County. So we're putting roots in the ground, so to speak, to really put our money where our mouth is. And more information to come this summer. The engineering study and design are complete, and shovels will hit the ground, and there will possibly be volunteer opportunities to have your shovels hit the ground. So stay tuned for that. Bill Gervin, you ready to wander up here? Another thing that we did in 2024 that we intend to continue in 25 is a season-long kids fishing derby. This was the brainchild of two of our directors, Bill Gervin and Matt Kazmierski. Matt was a fishing mentee of Bill's as a young man, and if you're a fishing mentee of Bill's as a young man, you turn into a fishing maniac as an adult. And to spread some more of that lore, Bill and Matt came up with this non-commercialized, community-based way to get youngsters excited about fishing our lake. So I'd like to bring up Bill to present our 2024 awardees.
Yep. Hi, this is a big deal. We had a couple winners. They won, you got the names right here. We had Connor Sirfoff, and he had a 23-inch walleye. That's a big walleye for an eye, especially when you're a youngster. He'll never forget that.
11 years old.
For 11, yep. And then we got
Ezra
Electric, and he had a nice sized rock bass, short of 10 inches, a smallmouth a little over 16 and a quarter. And I think it was a 23-inch pickerel or 23 and a quarter. That's a real nice pickerel. Pickerel, a great fish for kids getting hooked. I know because it's how I got hooked when I was a youngster. So anyways, we have a couple of packets here with stuff in there for each of them, and I'm going to give them to John. John's going to deliver them to the kids. And there's nice lures in there. There's some booklets. There's a booklet. I wrote a lot of tips myself, but we got DEC stuff. It's important to get the kids out there. And I have I've handed a few out, but I have 3 more packets. So when the meeting's done, come up front. If you have grandkids or kids that are younger, come up. I've got 3, and I will give them to you. We want to get them out there so the kids. I want to have this challenge we got from the OLA board. We only had 4 entries last year. We want to see that skyrocket. And you know how that happens? You got to take the kids out there, whether you're the dads, the moms, the grandmothers, the granddads, the uncles, the aunts, or maybe your neighbors, children. Bring them out there. They are not going to catch the fish or get the feeling of the OLA, the United Lake experience, unless you get them out on the water and take them fishing. And one of these lures I put in these bags was Al's Goldfish. And then I saw it when I was picking them out yesterday at Bass Pro. And it brought back memories when I was back in 1965 when I was a youngster, a little younger than today, right? I got the first award I ever won was a brown trout that I caught in Al's Goldfish. So I brought that as special walk for the kids. But I'm telling you, there's nothing like going out there and those early memories that you make with your parents and the kids. You make it happen. They're not going to get out there, and you got to encourage them and teach them and mentor them the ethics. And let's see a lot more entries come in. You're going to be able to look at our website, I guess. So let's do a lot better. We'll try to get a few pictures out there this year. Good luck, kids, and good luck, parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. Get them out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the work that you and Matt put into that, and a great opportunity for the youngins. Speaking of website, we want to thank Tom Bailey, who has hosted and organized the OLA's website for many years. He's a faithful OLA member and has done a great job by us. He is semi-retired from the web hosting business, so we've started to embark on everybody's most painful project, which is to create and launch a new Oneida Lake Association web presence. Amy Hetherington, yep, where'd you go? Amy, thank you for volunteering to lead that effort. We're looking forward to a new site coming online around the summertime of this year, so that's underway. Keep watching for that. Tony, not that you were planning on it, but could you join me on stage for a moment? He wasn't planning on it, and he's having second thoughts and misgivings. Big highlight of 2024 for the Oneida Lake Association, in light of the decades of conservation work that we've done. And I think really highlighting the partnership between the Oneida Lake Association and Cornell University that goes back a long, long time. And Tony is newly minted retiree as the Oneida Lake Program Director for the Shackleton Research Station. And he okayed one of his staff last year, Zoe Almeida, to head out to the American Fisheries Society conference in Honolulu, I think, in September. Yeah, Honolulu. Terrible assignment. To receive on behalf of the Oneida Lake Association the American Fisheries Society 2024 President's Fishery Conservation Award. Good luck. And I just want to take this moment, Tommy, to thank you personally for the work that you've done at the field station, the legacy that you leave there in a long line of Oneida Lake directors and directors of the field station. And it shouldn't go without recognition, and so I'm pleased to call you our friend and our partner and to have you on stage tonight to be able to recognize you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. The award, if you're looking for it, if you want to, it's a good-looking perch on that thing. In a showcase of one of our other key partnerships is going to be hanging at the Constantia Hatchery, courtesy of Mr. Evans. Thank you for the hospitality for the award. And again, it really showcases that Oneida Lake Association can't do anything alone. We do it together with our partners and friends.
Yeah, Matt, that was it. The President's Award, that was all over the whole country and all over the world, really.
Yep, it made OLA a one of one in that venture last year. All right, a quick one, because I know it's going to be addressed later. An on again, off again concern of our members is that floating debris finds its way into the lake and then finds its way either under your boat or onto your shoreline. We'll have a representative here tonight, John Canady, who's the Great Lakes Recreation Specialist for New York Sea Grant, which is an organization that if you haven't heard about Sea Grant, you should listen up because John's got some interesting stuff to share. Talking about an experimental pilot solution that we're putting together this year to try to better report and track where that debris comes from and goes. Excuse me. Topic of perhaps the greatest interest is the linkage between what's going on with Micron in the clay area and what the state of New York has done with legislation and regulations to change how freshwater lakes can be designated as wetland. Show of hands, who here has heard anything about that second issue? Okay, that's pretty good. That's great. And that's awesome. The best thing you can do is be informed because it's a complicated issue. And it's one that, to be honest, so far doesn't have a lot of great answers that anybody here should be very happy about. The law that changed and went into effect the first of this calendar year gives DEC unchecked power to designate any fresh water as a wetland. And with no offense to our colleagues and partners from DEC who are here tonight, this strikes us as a legislative overreach on the part of the ledge and some executive deafness on the part of our governor and possibly on the part of some commissioners. These guys have a job to do and might not be as free to say that as we are as a conservation watchdog, but we have seen most recently that the state of New York published a map that designates the entire shoreline of Oneida Lake as a wetland and imposes a 100-foot buffer zone in which any activity that a landowner wants to do to, do maintenance or improvements potentially requires a new layer of DEC permitting. We're all for protecting wetlands. We think wetlands in the Oneida Lake watershed are some of the most precious natural resources we have. The Oneida Lake Association's stated position on the topic is that the regulations we already had in place prior to 2025 did a good job of protecting the wetlands around the lake and the lake. So we have taken measures in 2024 and continue to work on it in 2025 to oppose the new law and regulations. We had great support from the Office of Senator Joe Griffo out in the Oneida County end of the watershed. Assemblyman Miller's been working on this with us. He's been really receptive. If you're wondering what you can do as members, look up your assemblyman and state senator and call them and say, hey, what's up with this wetland regulation? Would you support a law that exempts larger bodies of water from being designated as swamps? Because the last I checked, I looked out at it this morning, I looked behind me, not at the lake, and I saw a swamp, because behind me, where there's not a lake, there's a swamp. And then I looked the other way out at the lake in front of me, and that wasn't a swamp. So common sense suggests that lakes should be lakes and swamps should be swamps. So this is something that we don't have a ton of new news on tonight. We had channels 3, 5, and 6 here interviewing us about it earlier, so you'll get to see more about that, I think, tomorrow and the next day. We've partnered with multiple other lake associations to push this issue. Recently became aware that the Chautauqua Lake Association is getting ready to sue the state of New York over this. I don't know how that's going to go, too soon to tell. We haven't seen any of the text of that, but I can tell you OLA is going to be watching it closely, and we've had discussions at the board level about potentially enjoining that. So big issue. We know it's important. We don't stand here today with an easy, ready solution. We certainly don't find fault with any of the DEC people who are here doing their jobs, enforcing the law as it is written, because when you're a public servant, that's what you do. You enforce or regulate as written, but it is something that we're aware of that we want to try to work on. So feel free to give us your input, as OLA members, by all means give us your input on it. If you're affected by a permitting issue or something like that, we'd like to know about it so that we can stay apprised and stay on top of the situation as best we're able. Excuse me. All right, final task. We're going to go a little bit out of order tonight compared to what we're used to. And rather than save it till the end, we're going to present the Conservationist of the Year Award now. And to do that, I have to swear everyone here in the room to secrecy. Can you get with that? Okay. Because our Conservationist of the Year honoree for 2025, who isn't able to be here with us tonight, but will be able to receive the award from a delegation that's going to include Lance and myself and John, is Tony Buffa. And I have to point out, as a tribute to Tony, because we knew ahead of time, he's doing well enough, he considered coming tonight, and it's just, on days, off days kind of thing. But Mike Beretta, if you wouldn't mind standing, who's dressed up as Tony Buffa to give him tribute on the occasion. Thanks, Mike. But just a quick rundown on why Tony's was a slam dunk to be nominated and selected for the award. Tony's one of those who would have stood up when I asked for people to stand up earlier, right? And at 82, he's still going stronger than a lot of people who are age 28. And most of that boundless Energizer Bunny energy of his is devoted to fishing and caring about fishing and caring about the waters that the fish come from. And I suspect that there's more OLA memberships, no offense, Bruce, but I think more OLA memberships have come out of conversations aboard Captain Tony's boat than any other methodology. He's well known, probably the best known, the walleye jigging program, like you look in the dictionary under walleye jigging program and there's a picture of Tony. So he's made contributions to fishing technique, fishery conservation. He's been an awesome champion of law enforcement on Oneida Lake. He's done a ton to promote and be engaged in the science that comes out of Cornell University. He's a well-rounded man on the OLA board as a committee chair, has organized fishing derbies on behalf. He's been a prolific bulletin contributor. One of the biggest things he did was this meeting right here. I mentioned earlier that we've become a less civic-minded society, right? And if you think about the history of this association, once upon a time, the OLA would have its meeting, we'd raffle off a boat, like a whole boat with a motor. Tonight we're raffling off a canoe. So, last year was kayaks, this year canoe, humble beginnings, great things. As society got more fragmented and less interested in the outdoors over time, Tony's energy really gave a lot of uplift to this association to be able to have this meeting be well attended and productive for all of you. So he's been the chair of the annual meeting committee for at least 22 years that I could find record of. He really established this format that seems to be welcomed by people in attendance. For me, having Tony as a friend and mentor is literally like having one of the faces on Mount Rushmore get down off the mountain and come tell me what I ought to be doing about conservation and taking care of Oneida Lake. And I'll just save a piece for last. So 2025 marks Tony's 50th anniversary of service to the Oneida Lake Association Board of Directors. So if you know Tony and talk to Tony, give it a couple of days before you congratulate him on the award, please. All righty, thank you. That concludes my remarks. It concludes our business meeting. You've probably had enough of me at this microphone over the years, so I want to thank you all for your patience and support. I'd like to turn the stage back to John to introduce our presenters.
All right, thanks, Matt, for those remarks, and thanks again for a year of terrific leadership. And we look forward, as Matt said, to having Lance come on board and lead us through the next year or so. Okay, so now we're going to transition into our speakers for the evening. We'll try to save some time for questions at the end of each. As long as we can stay on track, maybe we'll have time for a couple questions. First up, though, is John Cannaday from the New York Sea Grant. John? Yes? Oh, here we go.
We got to do some IT hijinks.
Okay.
And
all right, good evening. My name is John Cannaday. I am the Great Lakes Recreation and Tourism Extension Specialist with New York Sea Grant. If you know who Dave White is, I replaced Dave White. So I know big shoes to fill. F5. So talking with Matt, something that we're looking at doing is doing a navigational hazards mapping on Lake Oneida. The conditions are always changing, trying to make something that you can see in real time and see where those hazards are. So the current maps on the OLA website, we just have a general Google map picture that you can see Doesn't really tell you anything for navigational hazards. And then you also have the OLA boating safety map. Great bathymetric info, very useful. It was last updated in 2006. The lake has changed just a little bit since then. The lake is always changing with these hazards. So what we are trying to do is do an embedded map on the OLA website in the future to have all of these bathymetric information on there, crowdsource information from you and other boaters so that way everybody can see that information. And then we can link these hazards to the officials that may or may not be able to do something about removing hazards or improving the navigation on those waterways. Next. All right. So if you want to be guinea pigs for me, pull out your phones, go to that QR code. You can see exactly what I'm talking about with the form that I'm going to be asking for information on. It's going to ask you the date that you observed it. You can select today. If you saw it last week, enter last week. It's going to ask you what type of hazard. I've got generic things on there. Select what kind of hazard you are finding on the waterway. It's going to ask you like, all right, that tree that's in the water, is it blocking the left side, the right side, the whole channel? What is it? That way we can know for further stuff.
Excuse me, what about people who don't have a smartphone, which I'm one of them? Is there any other way to reach you?
It would be on the website. This is all very early on right now. So it might be going to an app-based program, but this is what I've come up with right now. I got to see how funding shakes out in the future to see how it's going to end up being implemented. But this is the bare bones of how it's going to work. You'll identify what's being blocked, and then the location is derived from either your GPS on your phone, or you can select where it is on the map. And then it'll ask you to upload a photo. That way we can see the hazard and know what it is exactly. Next slide. And then try to hit the map link.
Map link, John, where am I going?
Top left of
The thing that says map
the thing
link.
that says
right?
map
Okay,
link.
that's awesome, John, thanks.
Trying to see if this is going to work in real time here. I was having some difficulty with it earlier. So right now you can see the map I have on there. Those red dots are some hazards that I had some coworkers list on there. I'll see if I can get that to work in real time and see the hazards that you guys have already uploaded on there.
Everybody remembers last year where I sent my son to the Walmart 7 minutes before the start of the show to buy a new overhead projector. This is better this year than it was last year. We're also recording tonight's presentation, so that'll be published on YouTube within a couple of days. We're also going to have available the slideshows that the presenters are giving. So those will be provided on OLA's website as an educational and informational resource for people if you're interested to follow up on this.
Gotta love PowerPoint. PowerPoint was refusing to share the screen. All right, so now the map is uploaded here. So now we've got a couple new dots on here. So this is going to be able to be clickable. So if Matt clicks on any of those dots, those red dots, yeah, any of the red dots there.
My clicking skills are weak, John, but I'm.
All right, so then that's going to pop up with details about the hazard. The picture that you uploaded, what kind of, it's a tree blocking the road or blocking the channel, everything like that. All that stuff's going to be up there. So we just put random stuff on there to serve as fillers for all of these examples. So this is a dashboard that we're trying to create. We'll see what it ends up shaking out to be. I've been told about another program that's supposed to be more user-friendly down the road, so we'll try to get that going. All right, if you can close browser window. Go ahead and leave.
Yep, goodbye.
There we go. All right, and then next slide. Nope, that's not it. Those captions work. All right, and then a couple other safety reminders here. As of January 1st, 2025, everybody has to have their voter education card. I'm just a messenger. This has been in the works for a while, so make sure you have your voter education card. I don't want to see anybody getting a ticket. That ticket means less bait and less fuel you can put on your boat. Voteus.org/New York. That is a free online voter education course that you can get into and take. No excuses there. Get on there, get it done tomorrow, be on the water Friday when it's going to be 75. Check your marine flares, 42-month expiration date. Those are going to expire. Those will get you tickets. And your fire extinguisher has a 10-year lifespan. Make sure that's up to date. And wear your PFD. It's the safest way to be on the water is wearing your PFD. So that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
We have time for maybe one question for John. Anybody have a question? Bill?
Yeah, I do. I'm usually the one who speaks up. What about the funding cancellation from the current administration for Sea Grant?
We are waiting to see what happens. We are continuing on like nothing's going on. I'm cutting back on some overnight travel, so I'm not able to do everything I want to do right now, just so we can stretch those dollars farther. But I'm still planning stuff in the future because I'm keeping on. We'll see what happens until I get a stop work order. I'm going to keep working.
If I could, I'd just like to state for the record, your Oneida Lake Association is a strong supporter of the work that John and his team at Sea Grant do. We have been very, very vocal with our representatives in Congress to make sure that they hear that from Oneida Lake Association on behalf of Oneida Lake people, because work like this to enhance our boating community here around Oneida Lake really does help us have a safer, happier community around the lake. So John, thank you very much.
Okay, I know this is always one of the highlights of the evening. We're going to hear from Bill Evans, manager of the Oneida Lake Fish Cultural Station.
John. You gotta give me a sec, Bill.
Yeah, no way after that performance, Matt, am I gonna leave my presentation in your hands. I jest, Matt is very good, technically savvy guy. All right, as Matt gets that set up, I'll just, I think many of you know, I'm the manager at the Oneida Hatchery in Constantia. I took over from Mark Babenzine back in 2013, so if I did math, 12 years now. Yeah, I thought we were going to have a normal year. We had some nice snowpack. There was actually ice on the lake. All right, great. Here we go. There was no fish in the creek in early March like there was last year. So we were shaping up to have a decent walleye run. And it was a very good walleye run, walleye egg take. Seemed to be an awful lot of south, southeast, southwest winds, which are very bad for us. The wind's blowing right into the nets. As many of you know, and some of these pictures will show, when we're out there netting the fish, the crew has to stand in a boat, little flat bottom boat, doing this, and on the waves, lifting up, however many, 10, 12 walleye in a net. What are they weighing? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pounds a piece, handing them over to another boat. It's treacherous. Sometimes it's cold, snow, icy. But they pulled it off like we always do. Great crew up there this year. Information, this is kind of a leftover slide. I try to keep the basic information up there. For those of you that may be new, we're on the North Shore of Oneida Lake in Constantia. Our primary function is obtaining walleye progeny for New York State. We are New York State's sole walleye progeny facility. We're the only DEC hatchery in the state that takes walleye eggs. We do send some of those fry to a couple other hatcheries, but all the walleye for DEC originates from our hatchery. And the fish are stocked across New York State. We don't just stock Oneida Lake, although Oneida Lake does get a large portion of those fish. Some building size information there, water source is Scriber Creek. We don't have any wells or anything. We have the warmest and coldest water of any hatchery in the state. It isn't regulated, so whatever nature gives us is what we have. And we're open daily, April 1st through September 1st, 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. I say 3 o'clock if you see that somewhere because, you know, we have those people that show up at 3:29, and we have a lot of people with families at home who want to get home. So, but if you get there a little late, we'll accommodate you. So real quick, as I mentioned, you know, last year was an odd year. We had fish in the creek really early. This year we put nets out on April 3rd, or started taking eggs April 3rd through the 11th. Even though we had that snowpack and good runoff early on, the flow petered out. And that flow of warm water into the lake is what draws the fish into the bays up towards the creek and towards our nets. So we kind of were not really fishing that great. We were catching a decent number of fish. Cornell had to do a market capture, which means they clip every fish that comes through our building. So we tried to get 20,000 fish for them at least. We came up a little short just because of that flow just petered out. And no matter how many nets we set in the lake, they're empty. The fish just aren't coming in. We can't set nets like out by the islands or in, you know, too far down the lake because, as you know, in our lake it's really rough and we have days we can't even get to those nets. Sometimes things don't turn out so well if that happens, but some other historical dates there. This picture is actually from last year, but we did have one day that ended up snowing. So that was a little chilly on that day. Some collection numbers from the past 3 years. 2025 is all the way to the right. Like I said, we try to get at least 20,000 walleye this year, and 14,465 is what we came up with. We used almost 5,000 females this year and collected 260 million eggs. And if you look back across previous years, you know, we collected 800 less females last year, but still more eggs. And we think, wow, why is that? Well, just overall, there seemed to be a lot of females that we collected this year that were on the smaller side. Not that they were malnourished, but they looked, you know, just smaller size. And Cornell says that there's a really large year class of younger fish coming on, and that makes sense that those are dominating the population of the fish that we caught. So a lot of those fish just didn't have as many eggs as maybe fish in the past. And then the next set, we started off setting 7. Again, it was windy. We got 7 nets out. The lake kicks up. It gets too dangerous. We set 2 more nets, so a total of 9. And then 1 more net the following day for a total of 10. And the first day we set the nets was on the 30th. Of course, then we bring the fish into the building each day, and those are sorted by hand. Hard females, ripe females. Like, you know, people think of a melon. A hard melon's not ripe, so hard female is not ripe. She's not ready to express the eggs when they're soft. Nice pressure, light pressure on the belly. Eggs come out. That way we don't hurt the fish. We return them right back to the water, so they swim off to return. Matter of fact, I think Tom handled a fish this year that was clipped twice, and so that fish had been back in the hatchery how many years ago, Tom?
6 or 9.
6 or 9? Yeah. So, and she's returned back all this time, you know. It was really neat to see. So egg stripping fertilization station is where you actually squeeze the eggs and the milk from the males. The eggs are constantly stirred because they stick to each other otherwise. And again, we had a lot of nice fish, you know, no monsters this year, and just on average, they were a little on the smaller side. The egg treatment station, after they're collected into the bowls, go down to where they're treated with tannic acid to remove that adhesive layer so they're not sticking to each other, and then they're treated with iodine to eliminate any bacteria or viruses, and they sit in water hardened for an hour to 2 hours. This graph I throw up every year, just eggs per female, and just eye by eye, having more smaller females, we would expect the eggs per female number to be down from last year, and it is. There's a lot of factors that play into this, so this is really no, if we have a warm year like I think 23 was 2 years prior, the eggs, the fish come into the hatchery, the creek's really warm, they warm up, they ripen up really quick in the hatchery, so we're handling the fish and they're dropping eggs every time we handle them, so we may not get every single egg or all the eggs that we normally would if the water's cooler. So there's a lot of different factors, obviously food in the lake too. Cornell, we had to set up our surgery center again. They had some fishermen return some internal tags. You can see in the lower right corner there. So they had to reinsert some tags into some fish. And I just wanted to put this back up there to bring awareness that there are walleye swimming out there. They're not tagged or marked externally. Sorry if I'm stealing your thunder there, Tom. But If you find these tags inside the fish, they do ask you to return them. These signs are up at the hatchery. I think they're posted elsewhere. But it's a 1-inch long barrel-shaped black tag inside the fish. So the eggs then go to an incubation area here, 12 racks, or we call them batteries. They can hold up to 60 jars each. Total of 580 jars this year. That's just the number of jars we need to hold the eggs that I calculate we will need or speculate we're going to need based on a, assumed IUP or survival and what the Albany Central Office hands down to us. Information they gather from regional biologists all across the state for numbers for different waters. They give us a stocking number, and then I back calculate it as to what we are going to get. So each jar's set to 1 to 2 gallons per minute. It's really, our filter filters down to 30 microns. Anything smaller than that gets through the filter and can collect and build up sediment. On the left in the lower corner, you can see those egg levels are a little low. That's that sediment gets stuck in those valves and it just slowly slows the flow down. So we're constantly going through those, making sure they're cleaned up. And then when we restore them to the picture on the right there, that brings that level up that there's enough water flowing through there, keeping those eggs very well oxygenated. Of course, then once they hatch, we're stocked across the state. The average day is 21 days. We should see some stock hatching later this week, and then we'll have trucks from other hatcheries come in, load them up, take them back to their place, their areas to stock. We'll send some fry to 2 other hatcheries, and then of course we'll start stocking the Oneida Lake via a pontoon boat. And it's about 45 trips to stock the 153 million fry that Oneida Lake gets. Lake sturgeon, also raised there. 500 fish going to Oneida, 2,500 for Cayuga, and 1,000 fish for Genesee River. There's 6 other New York State water stock from fish raised at the Genoa Federal Hatchery. Lake sturgeon is really big fish. We get a lot of eggs, a lot more than we need. So we generally have 10, 20,000 surplus that we try to get rid of around an inch long. Once we know they're going to be viable and survive well enough, we'll get rid of those surplus, and they generally go back to the parental waters of on St. Lawrence River. Tiger muskie is another species we'll be raising this year again. 105,000 fries, what we request from Pennsylvania. Yes, they hatch and raise these fish up to 1 inch or 2 inches, depending on the year. We'll drive down, pick those up, bring them back to the hatchery, and raise them at the hatchery. And we've made a few modifications over the years. We tried some tiger trees on the left, and there's a screen. The green tanks on the right side have screened walls, basically additions so the fish can't jump out. And speaking of tiger trees, we did this little assessment a few years back, gathered some data over a few years as to how well they actually work. I won't bore you with the details, but a bunch of numbers here. The graph doesn't look like anything spectacular, and I do have to make a quick specify how this is working, because in the hatchery we measure our fish by the number of fish in 1 pound, so it's by weight. A 1 pound fish is 1 fish per pound. So if you have 10 fish to the pound, then those fish all weigh 1/10 of a pound. So if you're talking about size, you basically invert that graph. That's a little complicated, whoops. But that's the way that is. So the tiger trees is the blue line, which the lower it is, the bigger the fish are. The red line is the tanks that did not have tiger trees. And they started off after the first week quite a bit different. And then by the week 6, there was really no noticeable difference. Okay, it's some information to have. One of the biggest key surprises really was when we did mortality mapping, and we had a couple disease outbreaks at week 5 and week 7. Those big spikes on the red line. We noticed that the tanks that didn't have the tiger trees had the fish mortality was a lot higher. So that was quite interesting, not fully expected, especially that late in their life cycle. Concurrent years, 23, I don't have 24 on here either because they were a lot less drastic, but still showed the table on the left there, by week 2, 3, 4, 5, there's a pretty good difference, and then it drops off because the other fish just catch up. We're not sure if that's because there's a lower density in the tank, or if it is just a factor of the tiger trees, but we're going to continue using them at least for the first 4 to 5 weeks of growth, and then probably get those out of there. So again, species this year: walleye, tiger muskie, lake sturgeon, and our plug for our website and our YouTube page as well. A lot of good videos on the YouTube page. Some other hatchery news, people were asking what else is going on. We got a brand new UV sterilizer system at the hatchery. Upper left is the old system. It was installed when the building was built in '93. There were 4 banks of 4 bulbs each, and the new system only has bulbs in the center. There's 8 bulbs. This is the newest technology, highly reflective internal mechanisms for refracting that UV light back on itself. So it's really highly efficient, very high efficiency. So we only need 8 bulbs versus the 16 that we previously required. The old cabinets on the left, there were 5 banks of cabinets. The new one only requires 2. And there's a little control panel to the right side, which, as with any new technology, you have page after page after page, it's tabs and more tabs and more tabs and more pop-ups and more pages. So that's some pretty neat stuff. Again, a lot of stuff that really is not inconsequential other than the power supply and whatnot. But the neat thing, the bottom center one shows each individual bulb and the power. So if it measures the flow, it measures the transmittance of the UV light through the water, so clarity in essence. And based on that, it can adjust power up or down, which is really, really neat. A couple different user modes. So if just basic going in there, you can see what's going on. If you log in as maintenance, to do maintenance, it allows you to do certain things. If you log in as the manager, you can set different criteria. So it's a really involved system. It's really neat, and I can't wait to see how it helps out the fish during the summer. Because as most of you know, summertime, the water warms up, bacteria, viruses, that's when they get their metabolism gets ramped up and they explode. So we had a new kiosk last summer, thanks to the Region 7 operations. Good information on there. Our map, as was pointed out earlier, the Oneida Lake map there. Some other information, the tags, return for Cornell, the sturgeon signage and different species. There's more signage on the back, but you're going to have to stop by the hatchery and check it out if you want to know what that is. And then also our sturgeon made the National Geographic April 25 issue. Jennifer Hayes has been out to the hatchery for a few years taking pictures. And there was a big article on sturgeon in the National Geographic, and those fish on the bottom were from our hatchery. That's the caption there. So that was really interesting. Thanks to her for that. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And then that's the end of that. If anybody has a couple of quick questions, maybe, John, we could take a couple. If not, 315-623-7311 is the number to the hatchery, or we're open to the public, no charge. Stop by any day of the week.
I got one for you, Bill.
All right, Bill.
Tigers, when you got the tigers, I've watched the last couple of years, I've been studying.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're educating them at all when they get put out and you stock them, the ones that are better than that, them tanks versus the old?
Are we educating them using the tiger trees?
Because there's a lot of times when you stock tigers,
Mm-hmm.
they seem to like hang around on the top, they suspend birds.
Yep.
They might go back in the cover or weeds quicker.
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I think they tend to, we call it stacking. They stack on each other because they're looking naturally for that cover, and that's from day one. It's possible because with the tiger trees, they spread out more. With the cover, they're not stacking on top of each other as much as they do in other tanks. They still do it like at the lower end of the tank where the tiger trees aren't, but that's certainly possible. Yeah, that's a good question. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Bill. Next up, another feature of our annual program, we're going to hear from the Oneida Lake Fishery and Limnology Report from Shackleton Point. And here's our research specialist, Tom Brooking.
All right, thank you, everyone. Matt kind of scooped me a little. Before I start, I was going to say a few words. There's a gentleman in the audience tonight, Tony Vanderbilt, that I worked with for over 30 years. Taught me more than you can imagine. Tony handled, 20 or 30,000 fish a year for 30 years. Somebody can add that up, it's a lot. But I want to thank Tony, and we really appreciate all he's done. All right, so we're gonna go over some of the fisheries and limnology surveys of Oneida Lake. You can see I have a big author list there. I didn't do all this myself. Tony did a lot of it over the years. We have a crew that goes out and does water quality. We have a crew that goes out and looks at zebra mussels and invertebrates, and then we have a crew that goes out and looks at fish. So this is a cooperative project from a lot of people. Funding was provided through the Ocean and Great Lakes Ecosystem Conservation Act through New York DEC, and also through the Cornell Biological Field Station Endowment, the Brown Endowment. I'll give you a quick outline of what I'm going to go over. I crammed a lot of stuff in tonight, so we're going to cruise through it. We'll look at the water quality and benthic invertebrates. We'll go through some walleye data, which I know you're all interested in. We'll look at yellow perch, the net catch and the growth of the young. We'll look at white perch. We'll go through some bass graphs on the bass population. We'll look at lake sturgeon. Everybody's excited. There's a big lake sturgeon model out there, I hope you saw. We'll look at some round goby numbers. Round gobies are very abundant. And we'll look at the cormorants. The DEC has a cormorant harassment program. They bring them to us, and we look at the diets to see what fish they're eating. And we'll go through some angular catch rates as well. So to get right into it, I'm going to go through these fairly quick. Water quality, the blue line is the ice duration on Oneida Lake. It's been decreasing. You guys all know that. We actually had a good ice season this year, but over the average, it's been getting shorter. The red line is the summer water temperature on Oneida Lake. I think it is June through August, and you can see it's increasing. It's getting warmer. If we look at nutrients, we have a bunch of people that do a lot of nutrient analysis. Let's see what you want to look at first. The red line is the total phosphorus in the lake. So that's one of the nutrients that drives a lot of the algae blooms. Total phosphorus went down when zebra mussels came in the 90s, and it's remained fairly stable since then. It's gone up and down a little bit. The green line. The green line is nitrogen. So nitrogen is going down, and we're not quite sure why that is. There's a lot of things that affect it, but we have a whole team of people that are doing research on limnology, and I'm a fish guy, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Zooplankton. We monitor the zooplankton in Oneida Lake. Daphnia is one of the main species that fish prey on. That's what we consider the most important. And Daphnia and total zooplankton has been decreasing. There's a lot of reasons for that. We have some additional predators on zooplankton. The only thing I want to say about this so far is that we haven't seen a real impact on the fish. So even though zooplankton is a lot lower, so far it hasn't had a huge impact on the fish, so we're pretty happy about that. If we look at invertebrates, you can see a picture there. Those are mayflies washing up in our harbor. The mayfly population has come back. They used to be very abundant in the early 60s. There were no mayflies pretty much up until about 2008 when they started to come back. Mayflies are very abundant. They're a very important source for young fish food. Everything eats them. The fish love them. This has been a huge boon for Oneida Lake. Another thing that's increased recently is Chaeoporus, and that's on the blue line. You can see they've increased substantially the past couple of years. And Chaeoporus is an invertebrate that feeds a lot on zooplankton. So that may be part of the reason that the zooplankton is going down. So, fish. This is what you guys are all excited about. This is what I do. I want to show a couple pictures of some of the things we do, just to show you some of the gears we use and how we cover the lake. This is the GPS trails of our offshore trawling. We go pretty much end to end, cover a lot of the lake. We do inshore electric fishing. And you can see from the GPS trails, we know the shoreline pretty well. We cover it. Just one more slide on our gears is a spring larval fish survey. And you can see that we got across the lake a couple times. And you see all the lines lead towards Shackleton Point, that's where our research station is. So everything leads to Shackleton. This is the walleye adult population. Now you've seen this graph before, and we've added this year's numbers on it. 2 or 3 years ago, the population was at its highest, very high. It has come down a little, there's been a lot of harvest. We've had a little bit of recruitment. Our prediction is that in the next couple of years, that will remain stable or increase. So there's a lot of young fish out there. As you guys know, you're catching a lot of undersized fish. That's good. We'd like to see that. As a fish biologist, we get excited when we see those little fish because that means there's going to be more big fish in the future. All right, so that's the walleye population. We use the length at a certain age as a measure of how fast they grow. Okay, so the red line is the length of an age 4 fish, the average length. And the black line is the average length of an age 6 fish. And you can see that during the mid-2000s, the growth was actually very high. Those were high gizzard shad years, there was a lot of food. The growth in the past 4 to 5 years has been pretty low, and we're not quite sure why that is. Gizzard shad are a little bit lower. There hasn't been quite as many yellow perch out there, young ones. So the growth has been low the past couple years. We don't think it's a big problem right now, but it's definitely been lower. And another thing we look at is walleye relative weight. So that is a standard weight of a certain size fish. And you can see that that also has been pretty low the past couple years. Looking at the young walleye. So what we do is we go trawling. The red line is the catch of young walleye. You can see that we did pretty good at 24. It's a little higher than some of the past years. And if you look at the yellow line, is the average length of those age 0 walleyes. The past 2 or 3 years, they've been bigger than normal. That's a good thing. When the young ones grow fast in the summer, get to a certain size, they survive better to adulthood. So we're pretty happy about that. We move on to yellow perch. This is our yellow perch net catch. You can see the line in red the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. The perch are going up. You guys all know this. We've received reports from anglers that they're doing great. The perch population is pretty much as high as it's ever been. That's great news. We're going to look at the yellow perch length at age. Again, the red line is the length at age 5, and the blue line is the length at age 2. And you can see that in 24, the yellow perch lengths were as high as they've ever been. They're growing like crazy. They have lots of mayflies to eat, they have lots of gobies to eat, they have caiagas. They seem to be growing very well. This is the number of young yellow perch. So again, we go out and we do trawling, and we also do the larval survey in the spring. The black line is the larval density, and you can see that last year was a pretty good number of larvae out there, increasing. The red line is the trawl density, and that's by fall. And you can see that there was not a huge number left by fall, so not a lot of them. This is the age 2 net catch. So these are the young fish that are going to be age 3 and join the adult population this coming year. And you can see the past 4 years, we've got lots of age 2s. So that means there's good recruitment. Even though there's a lot of perch getting harvested, there's lots of young ones coming in. We think that's a great thing. This is the white perch net catch. Now you remember back in the mid-2000s, we had lots of white perch in the lake. They were very abundant. They decreased in 2016 or so. They've come back a little, but only to about half the abundance that they used to be. So I think Jack Yankee loves white perch, but a lot of people don't. And the reason that they decreased is this is the white perch young fish catch. And you can see the past 4 or 5 years, there's been very, very few young perch, or white perch. So that explains why the adult population went down. Largemouth bass. This is our electrofishing catch rate of largemouth bass. It's been high, it's gone down a little, then went back up, then back down a little. We think that's mostly variation. There's some recruitment of young fish. The largemouth bass seem to be holding their own. And the way we index young largemouth bass is using a beach seine. And this is the graph of the young largemouth bass catch. These are young year H0s. And you can see it's been pretty high. It was down a little bit last year. We're keeping an eye on that. Seems to be a little bit of a decrease, but not too bad. This is the smallmouth bass adult net catch. You can see that in the mid-2000s, we reached record high numbers of smallmouth in the lake. Unfortunately, the past 4 to 6 years, the population is decreasing again. We've returned almost to the population that we had in the 70s and 80s. So they're decreasing the adult numbers. And if we look at the smallmouth bass young numbers that's caught through the seine as well, we can see that the past 6 to 8 years there's been a big decrease in production of H0s. And there's lots of reasons for that. We won't get into them right now. So the smallmouth bass we also catch when we go trawling, the young smallmouth bass. We catch them in the bottom trawl. This is the graph of the bottom trawl catch of the young smallmouth bass. And you can see for almost 4 years now, it's been very close to 0. It's not good for the adult population when you have no young fish recruiting. All right, let's talk about the coolest fish in the lake is lake sturgeon. That's a beauty, isn't it? This is the lake sturgeon net catch. And it's kind of complicated because we added some meshes and changed our net a little, so we have a lot of colors up there. The biggest thing you got to know is that the net catch has remained fairly well. The sturgeon are doing great. We have captured 47 wild fish between 2011 and 22. So there's a natural reproduction. They're spawning up fish creek, and that's always a positive thing. The largest sturgeon we've caught in the lake so far is right around 160 pounds. And that was a couple years ago, so that fish might be 180 pounds now. We released him and he's swimming out there to the tag. The brown gobies, very abundant, as you guys know. This is, we do a video survey for round gobies, and this is the catch, the estimated density of round gobies in the video survey. 2024 was a slight decrease from 23, but they're still very abundant. There's lots of gobies out there. If you look at the density, we're talking numbers in the range of 20,000 per acre. That's a lot of fish. You can go out there when you're swimming and diving, you can see it just like a wave of gobies around you. And we also catch gobies in the seine. So this is the seine catch around gobies. It shows about a similar trend. There's lots of gobies out there. They're doing really well. All right, I mentioned the gizzard shad. These are the young gizzard shad and emerald shiners. So the gizzard shad are on a purple graph, and you can see that they used to be very abundant in the early 2000s, 2010s. They decreased substantially right around 2019. Gizzard shad are very low. You didn't see the schools inshore like you normally do. The past couple of years, they've come back up a little. They haven't disappeared, they're still there, and they have not reached as high abundance as they used to. Emerald shiners on the red graph, you can see that the past 3 years, emerald shiners have been very low. You don't see the schools in the creek like you used to, you don't see them inshore. You're not quite sure why that is. All right, like I said, the New York State DEC does cormorant harassment, and as part of that, they go around and count the number of cormorants on the lake. You can see this goes from April to October. And if you follow the red line, there was a fairly high number of migrants that come through in May. And then in the midsummer, they grass them and they keep them down right around 100 to 200 birds. And then starting in the first week of August, we get the migrants coming back from Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River, and those numbers jump back up again. This is the number of feeding days. So if we have 200 cormorants for a week, that's 200 cormorant feeding days times 7. So we add those up, and from 1975 to 24, this is how many cormorant feeding days we had. There used to be a lot more on the lake, and then we did the aphis harassment, reduced the numbers substantially, and now the DEC does the harassment, and the numbers are creeping back up a little. We think that's mostly due to the migrants that keep coming from Lake Ontario. And the DEC does their best to reduce those as much as they can. This is the cormorant diets in 2024. On the left hand, in blue, you can see that is the number of the percent of diet items by number. So the most common is round goby, gizzard shad, and yellow perch. If we look at those numbers by weight, which is on the right, we see that by weight, walleye and yellow perch make up the bulk of the cormorant diets by weight. So it's a little different if you look at numbers or weight. These are the angler catch rates. We go out and do a survey at the boat launches every year. We ask how many fish you caught, how long you've been fishing, things like that. The walleye catch rates are in yellow, and those have gone up. They're doing really well. The blue is the smallmouth bass catch rates, and those have been maintained even though the population has decreased. So they're still catching quite a few smallmouth bass. At those access points, we interviewed 379 anglers last year. One of the first questions we asked was, are you aware of the telemetry study we're doing? We were a little disheartened to find that only 30% said they were aware of the telemetry study. So we have a big telemetry study going on. My colleague Cam is going to be giving a talk on it next, so I'm not going to ruin his thunder and say anything. The second question we asked, are you in favor of the current 5 fish 15-inch limit? And 83% of the anglers indicated they were in favor of it. The third question was, have you changed your fishing tactics since gobies became abundant? 30% had changed their fishing tactics, 70% had not. And anglers targeting bass had a little higher percent, 46 had changed. And it seems like most people change to baits that resemble gobies or fish in rocks where gobies are more abundant. And 19% changed to avoid gobies by fishing farther off bottom. Question 4 we asked was on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with the quality of fishing on Oneida Lake? And we've asked this question for quite a while, and we received an average of 4.3 out of 5 last summer, so we think that's people are reasonably happy. What is your biggest concern as it relates to the fishery of Oneida Lake? So we had 34% indicated they had no concerns. They were happy with the lake. Of those that expressed concerns, 25% expressed concerns related to harvesting regulations, 24% expressed concerns about water quality, 22% about the fish populations, 12% about invasive species, and then there was a smattering of other answers. So I'm going to go through a quick summary here. The walleye population is expected to remain stable or increase in the next couple of years. That's great news. The yellow perch populations remain near record highs. The bass populations are decreasing, and we're looking into reasons for that. In 2025, this coming year, we're doing a walleye population estimate. You may have seen us over at the hatchery. We were marking fish by clipping their fin. We marked 13,300 or something like that. We're going to go out and do netting all summer for those. If half of those fish are marked, we know there's twice as many as we marked. If 10% are marked, we know there's 10 times as many as we marked. So that's how we do the population estimate. We are also doing a full year angler survey this summer. One of our creel survey technicians is out here somewhere. They're going to be going around and interviewing anglers on the lake. So we ask your cooperation. They will be approaching you in boat, asking some questions about your fishing. I know it's kind of sucks when you get your fishing interrupted by somebody, but we wouldn't do this unless it was very important. So please cooperate with them. I know it's a little bit of a hassle, but it's very important data, and they're out there doing a job, so they would really appreciate your cooperation. And that is all I have. I'd be glad to answer any questions or anything. Thank you very much.
Questions for Tom? Okay.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Has anybody ever tried using Adobe? Are they any good?
She wants to know if we ate a goby, are they any good? Can I see hands? No. Actually, Laura Rustin has eaten gobies. I'm gonna let him describe that.
It's like sardines. Delicious. Try it.
Okay, so who here has heard of the telemetry study? Raise your hand. That's much better, Tom. All right, Cam's going to come up and he's going to tell us a little bit about the initial findings. They rolled this out last year. It looked really cool, looked exciting. But certainly this study is not over yet, but Cam's going to give us some preliminary data.
Hi, everyone. My name's Cam Davis. I'm a fisheries technician at the Cornell Biological Field Station at Shackleton Point and a master's student at Cornell. And I'll be using the Oneida Lake walleye telemetry study for my master's thesis. So a reminder of the objectives for this study. First, we want to go and figure out where walleye are spawning and how many walleye are actually spawning at those respective sites. We want to determine if walleye exhibit seasonal movement patterns and document their habitat use throughout the year. We want to determine the post-spawning distributions of adult walleye handled at the hatchery. And we want to provide minimum exploitation rates of adult walleye in Oneida Lake. And a quick timeline for this project. This project is a 3.5-year study. That star indicates where we are right now. This project was initiated in the summer of 2023. In the fall of 2023, we went out and we did a bunch of inshore electrofishing all around the lake where we tagged 100 adult walleye. Then the following spring in 2024, we went to the hatchery and tagged 100 adult walleye there that went there to spawn. And in July of 2024, we did our first data download. So all these results I'm presenting today are on 7 months of data collection. And our next data download is scheduled for July of this year. So when we first get into this, we have to figure out how many fish do we still have alive and how many have died. To do that, you have to make some assumptions about their movement. We assume a fish is alive if we're still seeing constant detections and moving around and being detected at different receivers throughout the lake. We assume a fish was harvested if that fish was moving around and those detections abruptly stop and we no longer detect that fish. Based on the 207 fish that were eligible for this, June 15th of 2024, we believe about 35 fish have been harvested by anglers. We assume natural mortality occurred when the fish stopped moving, but those detections were still getting picked up on the receiver. And after 4 weeks of that, we assume that fish is probably laying dead in proximity of that receiver. For that, we had 29 fish. And we assume a fish left the system if we are no longer getting detections of that fish, but the last detection we have was on a tributary receiver. And out of those potential 35 fish we think were harvested, we got 14 tag returns from anglers. This is a little more up-to-date information on the angler return. So this is as of last week. We've had 33 tag returns from anglers, which is 14% of all the fish we have tagged so far. And Tony would talk with these anglers, and we'd get some information about where they were fishing for where they were fishing that day, what time of day they were going, and how they were fishing for that. So from shore, from a boat, on the ice. And from this, you can see about 33% of our tag returns came from anglers who were fishing from the shore at night during the fall. And there was no clear pattern of where these fish were caught. There were 25 different locations reported by these anglers. And so we appreciate your cooperation with us in getting these tags back and providing us with some information on those catches. So going back to our first objective of assigning spawning locations, I went through and looked at detection events on our tributary receivers, and that's a little cut off, but all right, thanks, Matt. And saw that walleye really were not using the tributaries except for during the spawning period. So based on that assumption, if a walleye was detected in the tributary during our defined spawning period, we assumed it was spawning there. And using that assumption, we assigned 21 I need to backtrack a little bit. So these are based on the 100 fish we went out and electrofished for and were tagged in the fall. And come to spring 2024, only 87 of those fish were still alive and moving around. And out of those 87, 21 of them went to Scriba Creek to spawn, 2 went to the Oneida River, 5 went to Chittenango Creek, 9 to Fish Creek. We didn't have any detections in the Barge Canal, and 50 fish never went into a tributary and remained in the lake proper for the entirety of the spawning period. And this kind of sums that up a little bit more. So out of those 87 eligible fish, 37 spawned in the tributaries, 21 went to Scriba Creek, which is about a quarter of them. 50 were not detected in a tributary at all, and the west end of the lake and Shackleton Shoal were the most frequented area by those fish that remained in the lake. Next steps that I'm working on right now are doing home range and core range estimates, which figure out 95% and 50% of the space used by the walleye. So we'll get an idea of how much space a walleye actually needs for its day-to-day activities. We'll figure out where they're spending their time, and we can look at how much overlap in those home ranges there are in between individuals. And so that red dot is the average daily position of that fish. Dates up in the top left. This was a fish that Erica found for us at the hatchery this year. She found it by identifying that scar on the belly you can see in the top right there. So if you catch walleye, please keep an eye out for that. And you'll see she spends most of her time on the north shore there. But on April 2nd, she punches into Scriba Creek for 21 hours to spawn, and then pretty quickly goes right back to that area.
What's her phone?
Catch her and you can ask. Once this starts over, I'll move on to the next. All right. So this fish, we don't know the sex of, but this one I would call a homebody. It just hangs out in South Bay throughout the entire detection period. So this is March, April, May, June, July, and starting back in October. This fish is the exact opposite of that last one. It doesn't show any real preference for an area and moves throughout the lake pretty quickly. So we're entering the spawning period now. This is May. This is June. And that's July. Now we're starting back over in October. And that's all I've got for you. But before I wrap up, I'd like to thank Tony Vandevalk. A lot of this work was spearheaded by him, and he's really set us up for success on this project. So another flower for your bouquet tonight, Tony.
Questions for Cam?
cause of movement versus lack of movement in those fish that we just saw?
It's hard to say. Could be chasing prey, but it's going to take a little more data and looking at those variables to figure out exactly what would be driving that. Could just be individual behavior too, individual preferences.
The 50 fish that didn't go into the tributaries, is the assumption that they spawned on shoals, or you wouldn't make that assumption?
Yeah, it's hard to say. So like that last fish that was moving around all over, it's hard to say if that fish spawned anywhere or not. But there are some, we're making assumptions that based on the amount of time they spent at a certain area in the lake, we can probably make that assumption that they spawned there.
Were you surprised at the ratio of fish that stayed in the lake versus
Yeah.
spawned in the creek?
Yeah, definitely thought there were going to be more in the tributary and a little less in the lake.
I would expect it to be the opposite.
Yeah.
Back there, there's a question?
Yeah, are you gonna initiate the tags that were pulled out? Are you gonna put fish back in to keep the population so you're getting more data points?
Yep, so when we get those tags back from anglers, we're reinserting them into fish. Bill kind of put up a picture. He did it for us again this spring recently. He's not here, so I can't thank him, but yep.
Bill?
Yeah. You any results back in your archives of when they tagged the fish with the metal tags and the lips? When I was young, back in the 60s and the 70s, I got a number of tagged walleyes and stuff. It's interesting that, and then they'd send you send it to them where you caught it and everything, and you get a nice little, it'd be on paper, they tell you. And basically, it's exactly like that one you went. You went up this, the spot and Scriba, you'll come back down to Jewel and north down the same way. It's the exact same thing. And I probably had about 8 or 10 tags, and it's exactly, and that, you know, it's interesting if you look back, I wonder if they've seen stuff before.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Tim. We look forward to your next report. Just a quick announcement before we move on. Director George Reck, are you here? Where's George? George back there. George is conducting a roadside cleanup. We have a section of, it's the on-ramp on Bartell Road in Brewerton that belongs to the United Lake Association, our responsibility that is. And he's doing a roadside cleanup, 9 o'clock Friday morning, George, is that correct? Yeah, come on out and join us. It's a lot of fun. Pick up some trash, do some good things for Earth Day. Next up is we're going to hear some highlights from the 24-25 law enforcement. We thank our partners in law enforcement, Lieutenant William Burnell and Lieutenant Mark Colasante.
Okay, my name is Mark Colasante. I cover Onondaga and Cayuga counties. Will Burnell covers Oswego County. I was tasked with talking a little bit about our enforcement efforts that we've been doing recently here on Oneida Lake. We've always done details for as long as I've been working for 23 years, and we've always done details on Oneida Lake, but we kind of would do them separately in each county or each zone. And last fall, we came up with the idea to start doing lake-wide details and including Region 6 in Oneida County and including all the counties. So we got, 3 or 4 counties involved in these details at once, and a significant amount of officers, more than we would normally have with our normal details. So I got some results of the details that we've done. And we started this last fall. We did a fall walleye fishing detail at night, and we did it on October 25th and 26th, and we had officers out there basically from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. And we had 10 officers and 1 lieutenant working, and they were from all 4 counties. And We had guys in boats. We had most of the guys were working from shore because most of the fishermen that are fishing at night are fishing from shore. But we do have really good luck checking the few boats that are out there. Fall walleye fishing, as you all know, has gotten pretty popular and very effective. And just that weekend alone, we only wrote 6 tickets total, but we did get 2 over limits, which was pretty good. We caught 2 individuals with over limit fish. We seized 5 walleyes as evidence. I think we had 4 fishing withouts. But it's good for us to get the guys together, and we get guys from different zones working together. So it keeps the guys interested in doing something a little different. This winter we did the same thing because we had some ice finally. And on February 8th, we had officers out there from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. We had, again, it was not similar numbers, 9 ECOs and 1 lieutenant. And we had officers from Region 6 and Region 7, all 4 counties that touch the lake. And just in that one day, we wrote 32 tickets and 5 written warnings. 15 fishing withouts, 9 unregistered snowmobiles, 2 unregistered or uninsured snowmobiles, 4 unregistered ATVs, and we seized 8 undersized walleyes. So there was a lot of people keeping shorts out there. And if you guys were fishing or talked to anybody that was fishing, it was good. Our guys were really checking a lot of ice fishermen this year because we hadn't had ice, and it was the guys get excited when we get as excited as you do to get out there and do the work as you guys do to go out and fish, and most of our guys fish as well. So those are the two lake-wide details that we ran. And then this spring already, every year we do details in each area, focusing on the closed waters, trying to keep people out of the closed waters and people keeping walleyes in the closed waters. So this year, just like all the other years, we have done that in all the different counties along the lake. And in Region 7, obviously, Lieutenant Burnell's zone in Oswego County, he's spent most of his time on Scriber Creek, where we don't have, it's either feast or famine there. You don't get a lot of, if we do get somebody, they're in there obviously spearing them or doing whatever they do. But for us, we got guys that are actually fishing in the closed waters. Some of them don't even know that it's closed, and a lot of it's education. But we have noticed this year we're getting a lot more people catching walleyes in the lake. So we don't just check the tribs, we check the shorelines, and we're finding people are catching walleyes out of season. So far this spring, we've had 9 tickets for taking walleyes out of season. And in the years past, we haven't had nearly that many. And we're not even to May 1st yet. So we were catching a lot more people taking walleyes in the closed waters. Of those 9 tickets, only one of them was in a tributary. So we're catching them on the lake shore or out in boats, taking walleyes out of season. So it's possibly maybe we should start focusing more of our efforts on the lake than in the tribs, as we just heard a large percentage of them are spawning in the lake. So that's good for us to know for patrol information. We've had 3 fishing in closed waters. When we first started doing this detail on the south shore of Oneida Lake, we were writing 40 of those. But the word has gotten out from us being there, and not many people are doing fishing in the closed waters. So our effort enforcing that has kept people out of the closed waters, which is a good sign. So 3 fishing in closed waters and 2 fishing without so far. So that's about all I got on what we've been doing for enforcement. I thought you guys would like to hear that we've come up with this idea to start working, the whole lake at once. It gets the word out that we're out there, and it's a more focused effort, and and our guys are enjoying it as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Bernal. He's just going to talk about his area and Scribe Creek real quick.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off what Mark is saying, helping out with those saturation patrols, but then up in Oswego County, we're dealing with Scribe Creek, and we're dealing with, Little Sandy Creek as well. I mean, has the same regulations as Scribe for the walleye and the closure there. Everybody's aware, I'm sure, back in 2021, we had some issues on the creek with some Native American folks coming down. That's hasn't been to that level, but it has happened pretty much every year since then. If you weren't aware, last season, so second week of April or so, 2024, we had 2 individuals that successfully speared 47 walleye out of that creek about 1 a.m. That we were able to make contact with them in the act and seize those fish. The good news is charged those individuals and they pled guilty in court. So that's a huge precedence for us when we're dealing with the sensitive political topics there. So that was a good thing. Unfortunately, Easter morning this past weekend, about 1:30 a.m., made contact with 4 individuals. 2 of those individuals were the same 2 from prior year. We surveilled on, we watched them for quite a while and then made the decision, they were scoping things out. They were a little late this year. I think the run had kind of sort of petered out a little bit. They were looking pretty hard. We made the decision to just put a kibosh on that before any fish were poked. And, that was that. So it's still happening. The good news is we're out there, man. We're out there in Easter morning at 2 a.m. We're there. So we do the best we can with that. And, I think it's not to the level it has been, but it seems to be somewhat consistent every year. So.
Comment on that? We had a suggestion to put in trail cameras on Scribe Creek from the Oneida Lake Association. At least you'll know who's doing it and catch them that way. We're hoping that comes through. We talked to the management at the hatchery, and Bill was appreciative of that. He thought that might be a good idea.
I don't think Bill sleeps. He's normally the one that makes the call to me at 2 a.m. and I pick the phone up off my nightstand and say hello, and I don't know what he does, but he's pretty good at it.
You don't know it's there. You would have evidence of
Sure, yeah. The best we can do is put those patrols together and those details. And my guys in Oswego County, I have them out there, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Most of the walleye run. So, between there and Little Sandy, we're kind of Redfield has quite a few problems up on the reservoir pre-season. So we're, focused on all of those during that time.
You know what the amount of fines were paid for those 47 speared walleyes last year?
So with the violation level offenses, if they plead guilty to them, it's technically sealed in the court realm. So I really can't talk about the specifics. I can tell you it was the maximum that the law allows.
The maximum times 47?
Negative. It was technically one violation.
So you're basically, your hands are tied. You can only do so much, right?
In regards to charging?
In regards to stopping them altogether.
Yeah. I think, it brings us back to the 2021, to the enforcement discretion, the letter that was kind of sent down. I know OLA, I think, got their hands on that.
Yep.
Comes back to that. Yeah, and that right, and that's basically that. That letter states that if they're doing anything that relates to subsistence living in traditional harvest methods, that they are exempt from those laws that would traditionally fit that. So things like out of season, things like means of harvest, length, daily limit, all those types of things. What it doesn't include, or what they're not exempted from, is things like harvesting in closed waters, harvesting on hatchery properties, any sort of area that is of great conservation concern. That's what they're not exempted from.
I have a question. It's not on the native Indians, but it's on the immigrants. You find it, not talking so much scribers, stuff down in the Region 6 waters and stuff. We have a lot of immigrants that have come in, go right way and stuff, but in the refugee center and stuff, they're down in the Utica area. A lot of them do a lot of fishing there. They do a lot of Oneida up there, Chapman Park, Asians, Bosnians. I bring this up because besides calling ECOs, they like to call board members of the OLA, especially if you're a president or a past president. They get these reports all the time. Yeah, we got a lot of Asians here. Anyway, my thing is, they had training in Utica back there just before COVID started. And they had one training, of course, COVID came out. The educational component and stuff, what are we, now COVID's kind of cooling down a little bit. Can they have anything at all where they get to educate these people that are coming over? I mean, once they get in our country, what about the culture? They don't take the culture, they don't pick it up or anything. They think they're in the old country and they keep as many fish as they want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not an easy thing. But I'm saying, there's a lot, you hear a lot of complaints. So a lot of anglers out on Oneida Lake and on trips and down, they see this stuff. And then, and then you got to call the DEC, don't call us.
Right. Yeah, that's, I think, the bottom line. So, yeah.
I'd like to suggest that maybe you put the dates on the signs that are on the creek on Constantia. I was down there about April 10th, and there was a young fellow down there fishing. He had a couple of walleyes on the bank already, and I hollered at him, chased him out of there, got him back up on the bank and pointed the sign to him. And he said, that doesn't say when it's closed. I said, well, during the walleye spawning season. And so I think maybe if you put the date on there, maybe on March 15th to May 1st, that the creek is closed to fishing, you might pay a little better attention to it rather than, I mean, he could look it up on the DEC website. This is just a 14-year-old kid that was out fishing for the day. So
yeah, it's a good suggestion. We can agree to disagree. I just don't think people read signs anyway. But I can certainly present that to the hatchery crew and, operations to see if they can do that.
We understand, like over on our side of the lake, on the south side of the lake, there's miles and miles and miles of closed waters, right? So it's hard to keep signs up. You can't, it's not feasible to have signs. So these regs are in place. If we see a young kid with a bobber and he's with his mom and they're fishing for bullheads, we're obviously chasing them out of there with a warning, and we're not taking enforcement action. But if you're casting rapalas, that's a different story. You're most likely going to get a ticket. You know what I mean? That's kind of how we deal with it. We have discretion. We know we're pretty good at reading people, and we know when to take action and when not to. We hope that we do, but that's the best we can really do as law enforcement. But I agree that signs, if we can make signs more specific, that can only help. So.
we certainly appreciate the efforts of our law enforcement community. Did you know that the DEC law enforcement predates every other state law enforcement agency in New York State, including they're 40 years ahead of the New York State Police. So that's been a long time that they've been together. You also heard the officers mention Region 6 and Region 7. They drop those phrases once in a while. That's where we are. We're in this region designated by DEC. We're also very fortunate to have the Region 6 and 7 directors here tonight. Jana Lantry, Scott Prindle are here. Thank you very much. They've been great partners in our work as well. Any impromptu remarks? Either of you two? Anything you want to say? Doing great. Okay, thank you very much. All right, at this point, we thank you for your presence. We had some terrific presentations here tonight, but we're going to turn it over to President Matt Snyder, who's going to run the raffle campaign for us. We have lots of cool prizes to give away. Birdhouses, fishing lures, we've got a canoe. So stick around, get your tickets out, get ready to go. We're going to give away some prizes.
I got 3 bags. 3 bags for kids.
All right, everybody, thank you. Again, one last round of applause for our presenters for putting on a great and informative program. Also, I'd like to just make sure that we recognize everybody who sponsored or supported tonight's event. Bill Alexander, co-founder of MTO Baits, who donated for the door prizes. Bass Pro Shops, B Hammer Tackle was here. The good folks at Cornell University for supporting this event. The Donovan family, there's a story about them. I met 3 generations of the Donovan family day before yesterday, and picked up the canoe that they donated that's out front, which was the great-grandfather's canoe that got handed down to the grandfather, that got handed down to the son, that got handed down to the daughter. So they're 4th generation on Van Antwerp Drive down in Cicero, which is pretty near to where I grew up in a 15-foot Grumman canoe. Hey, sir, you gonna help? Yep. What's your name?
Calvin.
Calvin, thanks for helping out, buddy. We appreciate you. So that's a classic. If there's a duck hunter in your life, A, I'm sorry, and B, I'm sure he or she finds that a very covetable item. Fish Creek Atlantic Salmon Club, Bill Gervin for helping with the items for the Youth Fishing Derby recognition. Lakeside Outfitters, Mad River Tackle, Mickey's Bait and Tackle. Those guys are here every year, and we so appreciate it. Onondaga County and Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District, SoCo Baits, Towboat US, Grant, if you're still here, thank you, and the CNY Wildfowlers. So without further ado, I guess we'll start at this end and work our way to that end.
All right, we're going to start with a bundle. This is some 2-cycle oil. We have a really cool, this looks like a Christmas tree ornament of Oneida Lake, and here's some artificial bait.
Pick a winner, son.
$338,349.
338,349. Going once, going.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Is that him?
338,349.
Yep.
There he is, Jared. All righty.
Come on up. Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. This
Brian,
is from
Brian Hammond. Yep, B Hammer Tackle.
Yep. Bill?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll not raffle, I'll give it, if they've got kids and grandkids, come up.
338,388. No, 338,388.
338,388. 338,388. All right, let me have that one back. Try again, sir.
$338,428.
338,428.
There we go.
Hey, congratulations.
All right, next up we have a bluebird house, and We're going to give you some lures in there as well. Bluebird House, courtesy of the Onondaga Soil and Water Conservation District.
338432.
338432. Yep, all righty, come on up.
Another Brian Hammond.
Yep, another package from Brian Hammond, B Hammer Tackle.
338311.
338311.
There we go.
Hey, that's a hot corner right there.
This is a Bluebird House courtesy of CNY Wildfowlers.
338325.
338325. Yep, way in the back. All right. Keep up the good work, Ryan.
All right, does anybody know what this is?
Yeah,
How did they get in?
if you ever heard that we're Bat House crazy.
Here we go. Bat House, again, courtesy of CNY Wildfowlers.
338314.
338314.
There we go.
Hey, Rip, are bats wildfowl? Okay, I learned something new today. Thank you.
We just reclassified them.
Courtesy of Towboat US on Oneida Lake, a $25 Bass Pro Shops gift card. Ooh.
338385.
338385.
There we go.
Yes, sir. All right.
Once again, Towboat US on Oneida Lake, $25 Bass Pro gift card.
338322.
There we go.
Here, here.
Here, get your steps in.
Yeah, everything from there down is from Mickey's.
One at a time.
Yep.
We thank Mickey's Bait Shop in North Syracuse for their generous donations. This is a Zebco rod with a Zebco open face reel. Pretty cool.
338354.
Here, here.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, on a roll. You guys are reading those numbers quick out there.
Again, from Mickey's, a really cool tackle box.
338316.
There you go.
Bingo.
From Mickey's, once again, a great assortment of lures.
338308.
Right up front. There you go. Let's give away this great big wood duck house.
338445.
Yep, middle back.
Come on down and get yourself a wood duck house.
And if you need instructions on how to hang that, I just hung mine up. I can walk you through it.
All right, this one is going to be take your choice. You either get the spinning rod or you get this box of lures.
338332.
All righty.
These are courtesy of Mickey's. Which one do you want? There you go.
All right.
Now let's give away this box of bait and tackles.
338383.
338383. Going once, going twice. Be faster next time.
338450.
338450. Yep, all righty.
There you go.
That's the way to do it. Be fast and be close.
I think we're in the Canoe time.
Is it? Okay.
Unless you got something else, you know.
There's a package of baits
Oh,
from.
we got two of these left.
Nope, two of those, and then there's the baits package, Bill, that we'll move.
All right, we have another one, Towboat US on Oneida Lake. Bass Pro Shop gift certificate, $25.
338377.
Hey, John, $25. Negotiate with them.
Last one. Another gift certificate, $25. Thank you, Grant from Towboat US.
338329.
Here he is. All right.
Enjoy. All right, and what else? Anything?
The MTO lure. So, Bill, can you stand up for a sec? I just want to flag one of our OLA directors, all volunteers, all walks of life. Bill's the man, the myth, the legend behind MTO, made to order lures, and is piloting and has been issued patents. He and his partner, rest in peace, for extra durable lures that are reinforced on the inside to both make them more durable and to limit the amount of plastic that goes back into the lake as people fish and fish bite and break off the plastic lures.
Bill, you want to say anything about it? Go ahead.
Yeah, that was something a friend of mine worked on for a year and a half. I fished bass tournaments, and if you guys use soft plastic lures, you know how fast they break. And the amount of plastic baits that go in the water must be astronomical every year. We worked on an idea to run a super strong, super flexible nylon material in the baits that we make. And it was just two guys working in a garage having fun. We got up to the point where we applied for a patent, and we got a patent in January on this. Nobody had ever done that before. So hopefully you'll see them in the local stores around. Unfortunately, last year my partner had a heart attack and died at 61. Wow. So a two-person operation is now a one-person operation. But I am down in Sylvan Beach, and if you want to connect with me, you can probably get a hold of my information through the United Lake Association. And also, I also lures to pass out, and you'll be able to connect with me on that. But I really think it's going to be good for everybody as far as the money that you spend and how many baits go in the water, and the use of this. You can watch some of the videos. We have a link on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch them later, there's 5 or 6 videos on it. And you'll see where we fished on the water and how many fish are caught with one bait. I'm hoping that somebody in your company takes a wind of this and starts making their baits that way. It's really going to help a lot. So if anybody wants some information on it, it's on the package here. You can go on YouTube and watch the videos with some information on it. And who would have thought somebody in our own community was an idea to get a package?
Thanks, Bill. All right, so drawing for a little piece of history here from Mr. Alexander.
Here we go.
Three 339.
There he is.
There it is.
Yes, sir. And lastly but not leastly, Grumman 15-foot canoe with vintage. It's got some deck and fence stain on it. It's got some pine sap on it. I cleaned all the spider webs out of it for you, so we got a real winner out there for you.
Drum roll.
338433.
338433, going once, going twice, try again. The tension builds.
338307.
Hey, all right, winner. And that concludes our show, and we can work out delivery even. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you turning out. Young man, great job.
Thank you.
job. Thank you. That's for you.
No matter if it's good. Hey, 5-year-old